Have you seen the Method 105 BeadLock wheels? They're a heat-treated cast aluminum wheel with a forged beadlock ring. And this makes for a lighter weight wheel that's very strong, but not as expensive as a fully forged wheel. Now, when we say a lighter weight wheel, this 17 by 8.5 inch beadlock, well, it weighs in at just under 32 pounds. And in a 4x4, where we're installing bigger, heavier tires, well, anything you can do to save that rotational weight, well, that's big. Now, these 105 beadlocks, they're constructed using a solid A356 aluminum casting that's been heat treated to T6 specifications. And that combination of Method's wheel design and that high strength cast aluminum, well, that gives this wheel a 3,600 pound load rating. Now, let's talk about what is a beadlock wheel. Now, on a standard wheel, you have these flanges right here, or bead lips of the wheel. And the tire bead sits down inside there and it's held in place by air pressure. And that air pressure is holding the bead in, and then you also have this bump right here. This is your inner safety bead, and this helps stabilize that bead to hold it in place. Now, the problem with a normal wheel is that when we're off-road and we want to air down for better traction, and we're talking getting down into that danger zone, that 10 to 12 PSI or even less, this whole tire's flexing so much, this bead can start moving and it can slip right over that safety bead. You lose all your air pressure and now you're stuck on the trail with a flat. How a traditional beadlock differs is this bolt-on ring. Now, if we remove these bolts, this ring will lift off. And the tire bead is gonna sit down against this wide lip, with the beadlock ring clamping down on it and clamping that tire bead into place. And now that that outer tire bead is held securely, it can't roll off the wheel. Now, the inner bead is still held in place by that inner bead seat, but the inner sidewalls are under less pressure than the outer sidewalls, making them less likely to de-bead. The 105 wheels feature a high-strength forged aluminum outer ring, and that's secured by 24 grade 8 bolts. But don't let all wheels with bolts around the ring fool you. On many of them, it's only a decorative ring.
You serious?
Now, one great thing about traditional beadlock wheels is you can mount tires to them right in your own garage. And this is how you do it. All right, so first we need our tires, and we want to put the outside face of the tire down on the ground first. So if you have white sidewalls that you don't want to show, you want to turn those to the inside so it'll be facing up for this first step. So the outside face of the tire is down. This is the inside face of the tire. Then I've got a small container and I put just a little bit of water inside there. And I'm gonna take some dishwashing liquid. Put a big old squirt in there. Mix that up. We want this definitely very, very soapy. And this is just one of those cheap 99-cent paintbrushes. Just gonna slather that on. Method does include a little stubby valve stem with the kit, but we want to make sure we use our tire sensors so the tire sensor pressures in our dash are going to be correct. Now we're going to use our soapy water, put just a little bit up around that valve stem. We're going to slide it in here. And then we're using this cool little tool. This is just a valve stem puller, and it screws on. And then we're just going to, there we go. Lube that up one more time. Lay our wheel in, also lube that up. Now, you do want to be careful with that sensor so you don't just pound it off. So let's go ahead and start on this side. We'll turn that sensor away and we're just going to push in. All right, then we can throw a little more soapy water in on that inner bead. Now we can take our tire. And we're just putting it up on a plain bucket. And what we're doing here is we're supporting the wheel and allowing that tire to float. So now we want to get this edge of the tire bead down behind the step on the bead lock. So we just slowly work our way around. And you notice how the tire bead's popping back up. Well, if you grab yourself some big fender washers, we can screw those in just enough to hold the bead down in place while we get the tougher pieces down in. And we'll just throw one back here to keep that back bead down. All right, so here's our last little bit here. Now we need to make sure that it is sitting behind that step, so when the ring goes on and pushes that down, we're not pinching, unevenly loading that bead, that bead's dropping all the way down. Now to help keep everything more even, we're gonna now come back in with that soapy water. We take our bead lock ring, drop that down. Now the next thing we want to do is we're going to grab our bead lock bolts, throw the washer on them, and then use a little anti-seize. We're using an LB771 from Loctite. That's a nickel anti-seize. And we're just going to throw some on each one of these bolts. And it's anti-seize, so you see it doesn't take much and it gets everywhere. If you seem to get a little excess on one, you can grab another bolt and just kind of roll the threads together and around, and that'll help spread it out. All right, so you see I've got power tools, but I'm not gonna run these all the way down in. I'm just gonna run them down to where things start to get tight. And I'm gonna do it in a crisscross pattern. You never wanna go around in a circle. It doesn't matter who tells you this. You saw how tough that bead was to get down in. If we just start tightening things down in a circle, it'd be too easy to allow this tire to shift off to one side and pop up. So we wanna make sure that we go nice and even. Now this particular method wheel makes it easy because we've got bolts that line up with the spokes and bolts that line up with the holes. So I could just do a crisscross pattern with the spokes, then a crisscross pattern with the holes. Almost every wheel has something like that to allow you to kind of set a pattern with. So just look hard at your wheel, look at your bolts and see what kind of a pattern can you do. So we're just gonna run them down a little bit. And again, I'm just doing the spokes. We got all those down, so I'm gonna run, let's run the holes. All right, now I'm gonna grab my torque wrench. We have that set at 25 foot-pounds. The range for the Method wheels is so I'm just gonna go around the wheel. You'll notice I won't do more than 3 pulls before I move to the next one. And as you feel them coming up tight, you're just going to want to stop until you get all of them like that. Now you notice I'm just going around now, just double checking everything is torqued, and you want to do that 3 times around, because you'll notice every now and then I get one that I'm having to turn a little bit more, and that's because as you tighten up a bolt, sometimes the bolt next to it becomes a little loose, because as you tighten each bolt up, you're squishing that bead, and that can make the bolts on either side of that a little loose. So that's why we want to make sure we go around it 3 times. Okay, now we can fill with air. Now don't put your hands down underneath here, because that tire bead, that inner tire bead has to roll down the wheel, and you don't want to get your fingers pinched in there. Boom. And that's that inner bead popping down in place. All right, so we're right at 36. Your next step is to get these balanced, and one of the keys in balancing a tire is have it balanced at the pressure you're going to run it on the street. So we want to run these at 36 psi, so we'll get it there at 36 and balance it from there. All right, we've got these mounted and balanced. They're ready to go on a vehicle. But before we do that, let's go ahead and recap why you might want a set of BeadLock wheels. So if you spend a lot of time out on the trail at those lower pressures, and we're talking down below that danger zone of 10 to 12 psi, and especially if you've got larger tires, because with a 37 or a 40, we're actually growing that sidewall, and that taller sidewall has the potential to flex more when you're at lower tire pressures. So we want a way to lock that bead in place. Now, another bonus of a traditional bead lock is this replaceable ring. Once you get into the rocks and you scratch this ring all up, at some point it might get so damaged you'll want to replace it. Well, it's easy to do. And speaking of easy, we've shown you how easy it is to install these right in your own garage. But there is an easier way, and that's just to order a set of wheels and tires already assembled, balanced, and with your tire pressure sensors if you run those, and have them delivered right to your door. We can do that for you. So if a set of Method 105 BeadLock wheels are perfect for you, well, check that link down in the description box below and get a set on its way. If beadlocks aren't quite the right wheel for you, well, check out the rest of the Method wheels we carry here at Northridge 4x4. You'll also want to check out all the different tires that we carry and maybe put a package together of those. Now we're going to close out this video with a little action of these wheels and tires out on the trail. I want to thank you for watching today. We'll see you again soon.